morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Spring turnout is a great time of year. The grass is lush, the calves have all been branded, and we're putting in horseback miles trailing them to the summer ranges. A cowboy who earned his spurs with years of hands-on ranch work has gone on to be a very successful writer and singer of cowboy songs. And I found an old interview with Ryan Fritz long before he ever recorded an album. But he was part of a winning team at a ranch rodeo, and we'll take you back to that today. And another long-time working cowboy will remember one of his scariest bronc rides.
He blew up and just went to hogging it, and he was heading right for the tin roof. Like there's the tin roof overhang there. It's just right at neck height.
This weekend, of course, is Father's Day, and Baxter Black takes an affectionate look back at his dad and his granddad.
His father was a horseman, so was he, so are my children.
And the Rangeland News will keep you up to date on what's happening in agriculture.
The overall index rose as a result of livestock producers receiving 2.6% more price-wise for their products in April.
A great piece of cowboy poetry for Father's Day, and on the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training file, I'll talk about some of the myths of horsemanship that we all thought were true, but they really aren't. A classic song of the West from the pen of Bob Nolan. And you'll hear Ryan Fritz and two other big outfit cowboys after they won a ranch rodeo quite a few years ago, long before Ryan started writing and singing songs like this.
Give a boy a rope, and you hope that he'll want to use it. But give him your time, and you'll find he won't refuse it. Show him what you know and how to throw, then encourage, let him have fun. Maybe rope his mom, give a boy a rope. Give a boy a horse, and of course he'll want to ride it, and you'll be so glad you're his dad. You can't hide it. Tell him to sit tall and clean his stall, and take him with you a little every day. Goes a long way. Give a boy a horse, but give a boy a rope, and he's gonna use it and get tangled up, and then he's bound to lose it. But he's gonna learn that it can burn or catch a good dream. So build another loop, have another go, give a boy a rope. Give a boy a job, not a lot, but one with purpose. Help him where you can to understand. And don't be nervous. Teach him to be tough and how to love. A job worth doing, he's gonna have to trust, maybe even cuss. Give a boy a job, give a boy a rope, and he's gonna use it and get tangled up, and then he's bound to lose it. But he's gonna learn it can burn or catch a girl's eye. So build another loop, have another go, give a boy a rope. So build another loop, have another go, give a boy a rope. Just give him a rope.
That's Ryan Fritz, of course, and it was somewhere, I think around 1999, when he was riding for the famous Douglas Lake Cattle Company, and they sent 3 top hands to a ranch rodeo, and they won the whole thing. I was there, and it sounded like this.
The O'Keefe Ranch Rodeo champions this year, the team from Chaparral Camp at Douglas Lake, Cody Smith, Josh Hallis, and Ryan Fritz. Cody, you put a pretty good team together, made a pretty good effort there.
Yeah, they got a real good crew up there that we get to work with every day, and got lucky when we needed to, and it worked out real well.
What do you figure was the event that won it for you?
I think Josh had a pretty good bronc ride that kind of tied her all together anyhow.
Which one was it? Chester, yeah. And that's a horse that horse is a Douglas Lake horse, isn't he?
Yeah, he's from Portland crew though. I never seen him before, but Ryan said when he does buck, he's a pretty good horse and he'll could win it on him. So I just went out and tried my best, and everything come together, and I stuck on when the whistle was there.
Yeah, it sounded like lots of enthusiasm from the crowd there. Man, I don't imagine there was any time you were in any doubt that you were going to make it.
Oh yeah, he was coming to the fence, and I thought I was going to be
daylight.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be gone when he come to that fence, but I know not to look at the fence, so I just kept my chin tucked and kept trying to pull myself back in, and come out that corner. I was still on top, so I'd done something right.
I couldn't quite see from where I was, but tell me the honest truth now. Did you have a night latch on your saddle?
No, I got a heavy rope strap, and I just hold on to my rope.
Right. Ryan, the team doctoring, that went pretty well for you. I didn't get over in time or the single man doctoring.
Yeah, I went in there first, took a quick heel shot miss, and Josh was right behind me. Caught 2 feet and tied off.
Tailed him down, or did you?
Yeah, tailed him down.
Well, I've seen Cody in action a few times out on the range. Haven't seen you guys work. They treating you pretty good up there at Douglas Lake?
It's just excellent up there. They're real good to me.
Good horses and good country.
Yeah, I think we got the best horses anyhow. So.
Yeah. Well, Douglas Lake had, 3 teams here?
Yeah, we had a home ranch team, and then a chaperone team, and a Portland team.
Right. And were you able to do any practicing or come up with any strategy or anything before you started this?
Well, Ryan, he's been to these deals before, so he got us all organized and in line there and run the show for us, and it worked real well.
The whole thing is just a great event. You know, there's a lot of people here that the only rodeo they've ever seen is pro rodeo, and they don't really understand what goes on in the real situation.
Things we just do at work, but put it all together and put a time limit on, so it's usually a little prettier at work than it is in the arena.
Yeah. I remember you trying to catch a bull of mine one time, and wasn't that pretty?
No, he didn't want to be caught real bad. I was kind of happy when I seen him leave. I didn't have him caught.
Wasn't that sick anyway then if you could outrun your horse?
Well, another working cowboy turned singer and songwriter that Ryan Fritz has been compared to by some reviewers. R.W. Hampton is next with a great song and the story behind it. When the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. When we get together for jam sessions, sitting around with guitars and sharing songs, we often talk about how we got into a love for Western music. And there seems to be an ongoing discussion that cowboys and singers will talk about as long as we debate dally roping as opposed to being tied hard and fast. Do you have to be a real cowboy to be successful at singing cowboy music? Well, I'm sure you don't, and a lot of great singers with cowboy in their heart have never earned a paycheck on a cowboy crew, but they write and sing with the best of them. For me, I like to say I'm a cowboy trying to be a singer, not a singer trying to be a cowboy. And R.W. Hampton is sure the real deal. Here's the background on one of the songs he wrote that was recorded by Red Stegall.
Yeah, Red and I were talking about songs, and I told him a story about one time I worked down on the Canadian River in the panhandle of Texas, and that's kind of rough, broken up country. And we were making a drive one day in this big old pasture, and the boss had dropped me and another feller, an old fella by the name of Perry Vines, off, and I was riding an old bronc. And me and Perry rode off together, and then Perry said, R-Dub, you go through here, and I'll go on around and meet the other fellers, and then we'll come in. And he had no more gut out of sight when this old bronc started acting up and flouncing around, and he kind of stumbled off a cut bank. The bank caved in with him, and we went to the bottom, and he fell on top of me. He didn't hurt me, but I was trapped under him, and I knew he could sure drag me to death maybe if he got up and run off. And I hollered a little bit, and I knew Perry wouldn't come because he was hard of hearing. But after a while, he came back. I was surprised to see him, and he helped get the bronc off of me, and we got up and went on our way. And I asked him later, I said, what possessed you to come back? He said, he said, I got to thinking, and I just knew I was supposed to come back and check on you. I knew you were in trouble. So the good Lord put the bug in his ear, and he came back and checked on me, and I believe saved my life. But anyhow, I took that idea and worked it into a song and sent it to Red, and he put a few changes on it to make it into more of a song, and we were real happy with the way it came out.
On the wagon last October was a kid of 17, a city kid from Dallas, wet behind the ears and green. He'd stepped out of the pages of a Western catalog, not the kind you'd pick to ride the rivers and the bogs. The boss had thrown this kid and me together for the drive. We took the outside circle, I was mad and full of fight. It ain't no place for tenderfeet, 'cause where we had to go was through the hills and badlands where the twisted cedar grow. This kid had drawed a snaky bronc, plumb full of dirty tricks. Well, I'll give the kid his credit, boys, he stayed and took his licks. 'Cause every time he got throwed off, he'd step back on again. We wondered how much practicing this city boy could stand. At the head of an arroyo where the tamaracks grow tall, I set the kid drifting north right up Dead Man's Draw. The country's pretty open and the draw ain't very deep, so I took Black Oak Canyon where the bluffs are high and steep. It was misty in the canyon and the light was sort of dim, and through the mist I saw a ghostly rider on the rim. He waved his hat in motion to go back the way I'd come. Then when the mist had cleared away, the ghostly form was gone. I turned my horse around, headed back for Dead Man's Draw. I know the kid's in trouble, I can feel it in my craw. From the trail of broken cedars and the deep tracks in the sand, the gray was using all his tricks, the kid had made a hand. But there beneath a cut bank where the trail was slick and steep, the gray lay thrashing on his side, the kid lay underneath. With his foot run through the stirrup hole into the horse's head, he knew that if the gray got up, he'd soon be drugged to death. The kid was tired and getting weak, the horse was gaining ground. I slipped my gut line on his neck, the kid got turned around. So he was in the saddle when the horse got to his feet. Then we rode out together, but we didn't hardly speak. A dozen times I've ridden out along the canyon rim. There ain't no tracks and I ain't seen that ghostly form again. I don't really care if you believe a word I say, but a cowboy guardian angel helped me save the kid that day. It was misty in the canyon and the light was kinda dim, and through the mist I saw a ghostly rider on the rim. If I lived
Tim O'Byrne was the first cow boss that Ryan Fritz rode for back at the famous Gang Ranch. And Tim is now publisher of Workin' Ranch magazine, and a while back we talked about looking after the cowboys who are getting the job done on green colts.
One of the things that sits in my mind, is when I was working on the TS and around Battle Mountain, Nevada there, and there was 5 or 6 of us out on the wagon, and the Bronco man, he brought 5 or 6 horses out from headquarters. He'd been messing with these horses down at headquarters, and he brought them out to the wagon. And we were out there, and, it was whatever time in the morning, early in the morning, everybody was just, mounting up and heading out. And the cow boss, Thad Smith, he climbs on his horse, and, of course, it blows up and bucks across the desert. And 1 or 2 guys go racing after him, and one of those guys got turfed. And then the Bronco man, he's sitting on his horse, and his horse is froze up, and, there on the bed grounds. And I'm messing with I had a big old horse I was riding, and I was trying to get a 2-rein set up, and it was all tangled in knots, and I was trying to get this screwed onto this horse's head, and I just remember that old boy looked down at me and he said, "Get the hell on your horse and haze me out of this mess," because everything was coming back around, and these horses were coming back into camp again.
Another Charlie Russell painting in the works here.
It was stupid, yeah, and there was just hats everywhere and stuff, and I thought, and anyway, this guy was kind of. He kind of yelled at me like, "Come on, you idiot, get this thing going." So anyway, I learned that, and then one time right there, actually at Volt Valley, where I took those pictures, I climbed on this bronc, was named Bert, I think, and anyways, I thought I had him kind of topped off in the round corral there where the old barn was, and I stepped on him right in front of the barn. And again, just after I let him out of the pens, and he blew up and just went to hogging it, and he was heading right for the tin roof. Like there's the tin roof overhang there. It's just right at neck height, And I already knew a guy, actually a cow boss in Maggie Creek in Nevada, Royce Hansen. He got his nose cut off that way. It cut it pretty much off. It was just hanging by a thread. And so, anyways, I'm bucking straight towards this thing, and I can't do anything about it. And Bob Muncie stepped out of the tack room just nonchalant. He waved his hat at that colt, and of course he turned and ran the other way, and he ran all the way, jumped the cattle guard, and ran all the way down the Thompson Meadow with me on him. It was just a flat-out runaway.
Gee.
So anyways, by the time I got him bent around and headed back to camp, well, Bob was saddled up and ready to go, and he asked me if I'd seen any cows.
Did you bring anything back with you?
Kind of thing. But I mean, those kind of things happen.
Yeah, the romantic side of cowboy life. There's another great story from Tim coming up a little later. Baxter Black is next with a look at Father's Day, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at Father's Day.
Your land is a legacy, a challenge from those who tended it before you, to build on their foundations. At Corteva Agriscience, we understand what it means to be the stewards of a legacy. We embrace the challenge of building on the foundation of Dow AgroSciences to maintain your trust, to bring new solutions, to help you care for your land. See how we can help build your legacy at rangeandpasture.com.
And for our Canadian listeners, just check www.corteva.ca, the Canadian website.
Mother gave me a small box of old pocket watches and a book entitled A Practical Course in Horology. I don't know if you've got anything of your father's, she said. Fixing watches was his hobby. I thought you might enjoy these. Well, a wave of emotion swept through me. I felt the complete awareness of how much of me was him. Did I get anything of my father's? I should say so. Agriculture, for lack of a more glamorous word, cowboy, livestock veterinarian, horseman, meatsman, cattle feeder, animal scientist. This that I am, he gave me. I don't mean specifically my first horse when I was in the 3rd grade, nor even the milking chores I started at age 9, but the whole encompassing gift of the world of soil and sky and grass and animals and manual labor. I grew up speaking the language of agriculture. It was his language and that of his family. Over the years, I became absorbed in and by his farming heritage. His father was a horseman, so was he, so were my children. They were livestock people, cowmen, small farmers, cotton, grain, row crops, big gardens, chicken yards, pig pens, milk cows, draft horses, tractors, combines, pickup trucks, windmills, coon dogs, barn cats, big Sunday dinner, fishing in a tank, and going to church. His family was musical. They all played instruments. It was literally in their blood. They played. We play, I should say, as easy as some people swing a bat or bake a pie. He wrote songs. I have a box full of his old songs, and I also have a notebook full of living room hits of my own. They say he was a raconteur, an entertaining public speaker, and could tell a funny story. That's how I make a living today. So to my sweet mother who raised us, I say thanks for the watches and the book on horology. But even without them, I can say with gratitude and fondness that yes, I have something of his. I am my father's son. This is Baxter Black on Monday, brought to you by Corteva Agri-Science.
The legendary Sons of the Pioneers. With an unbroken connection back to the beginning with Roy Rogers, Tim Spencer, and Bob Nolan, up to the present, their wonderful Western harmonies are still honoring those traditions, and their live show is spectacular. Clear water. The famous Sons of the Pioneers with Dusty Roy Rogers Jr. will be touring Western Canada from June 12th to 21st. Shows in Leduc, Lloydminster, Red Deer, Lethbridge, High River, Airdrie, Camrose, Olds, and Medicine Hat, Alberta, and Moose Jaw and Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Not another tribute act. These are the Sons of the Pioneers doing all the wonderful songs of the West we've loved for so long. Get show dates and locations and ticket information at sonsofthepioneers.org.
Drifting along with the tumbling
And keep in mind, the boys are in Camrose, Alberta, June the 17th, and they'll be in Olds on June the 18th. Now, just ahead of the Rangeland news, here's a gal who was a big hit in both of her appearances at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival. Ranch raised in the caribou country, and she rides side by side with her husband and kids in Montana now. This is a new one from Trinity Seeley.
It ain't easy, this life that we've chose. It's taken us down long and dusty roads. We're not quitters, criers, squeaky wheels or whiners. We just get back on again and ride from camp to camp, home to home, like traveling gypsies down a road unknown. We're not lost or wondering where we're going. We just get back on again and ride these western skies. Take me home, across her landscapes we ride. We find ourselves deeper we get, sometimes searching, sometimes finding what we came to find. Fire and smoke, rain and floods, blizzards and snow, and Mother Nature's luck will take a hand. We'll take a breath and then get back on again and ride these western skies. Take me home, across her landscapes we ride. We find ourselves deeper just get back on again and ride.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, it says April was a good month for North American livestock producers. Here's Rod Bain with that story.
Ag producers overall saw a slight uptick in what they received price-wise for their commodities in April, with the Agriculture Department's latest Agricultural Prices Report Index reflecting a just over 1% month-over-month increase. The overall index rose as a result of livestock producers receiving 2.6% more price-wise for their products in April, most notable from a 4.4% increase in prices received by meat animal producers. The livestock price index bump offset a 1.2% decline in what crop producers received price-wise for their commodities. The decrease in crop prices received was pretty much across the board, with the lone exception being an almost 3% increase in prices for hay, upland cotton, and other crops. As for what producers paid for inputs and services in April, that index rose 0.5% from the previous month due to higher prices for feeder pigs and cattle, hay and forage, and gasoline. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Well, as expected, Saskatchewan has appealed the court ruling that found Ottawa had the constitutional authority to impose a carbon tax. Justice Minister Don Morgan announced May 31st that the official notice has been filed in the Supreme Court of Canada. The government has asked the court to answer two questions. Is the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act unconstitutional in whole or in part? And does Parliament have the jurisdiction to establish minimum national standards for price stringency for greenhouse gas emissions under the National Concern branch of the Peace Order and good government power set out in the opening words of Section 91 of the Constitution Act of 1867? And the Saskatchewan Court of Appeal ruled earlier in Ottawa's favor. And the British Columbia government is providing $500,000 to the BC Cattlemen's Association to develop an initiative that uses grazing livestock as part of a larger fire suppression plan. The money will be used for projects on the ground for fire mitigation and prevention. In the fires of 2017 and 18, areas that had been heavily grazed and farms and ranches with cleared landscapes escaped relatively unscathed because there was nothing to burn. The grazing will be managed with horses and movable fences in high-risk areas. 2 bulls in a South Dakota beef cattle herd have tested positive for bovine trichomoniasis, also known as trick, a disease that can be economically difficult for producers. The South Dakota Animal Industry Board announced on May 30th that the bulls had been detected in Oglala, Lakota County after testing positive for the disease. Neighboring cattle ranchers will be notified so potential contact with infected animals doesn't occur. Our experts tell us one of the most common signs might be low conception rates in a cow herd. Cattle producers in South Dakota who are concerned about trichomoniasis could contact their herd veterinarian or the AIB at 605-773-3321. And this old wandering cowboy and the amazing Western Spirit Band will be on stage at the 43rd Annual Ivan Danes Country Music Picnic at the Danes Ranch in Innisfail, Alberta. The picnic runs from August the 8th to 11th, and among the great entertainers there will be the one and only Tim Huss. Many more. And I think tickets will be available at the Black Knight Inn, and you can also call Ivan. I don't think he'll mind me giving out his number. It's 403-358-2295. And then we will be at the Stony Plain Cowboy Gathering August 16th to the 18th, along with folks like Doris Daly, Ben Crane, Ryan Fritz, Ed Peekycoot, and many more. And there'll be, at least 4 of us playing River Song guitars there. Get the schedule and the information at stonyplaincowboygathering.com or just call 780-718-5379. Next regular cattle sale at the BC Livestock Kamloops Yards is June the 25th, and the next Williams Lake sale is July the 18th, and there's one in Vanderhoof on July the 19th. Get all the information at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, out at the Innisfail auction market, Innisfail, Alberta, regular cattle sales every Wednesday. Next horse sale is June 29th. And, of course, the great Innisfail Pro Rodeo is on this weekend. You can get all that information at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. Now, we're down to the final item. And I was riding along checking summer range fences just last week, and we encountered a couple of bears on the trail. It didn't bother my horse much, but then we rode across a landing and her head came up, and she was looking at a big stump that really had the shape of the head of a big bear. And that got me thinking now. Suppose two old cowboys are out playing golf in a place where bears used to be abundant, and Slim hits a shot that slices out into the bush, and the ball lands right in front of the nose of a dead bear. And they look at where the ball has landed, and Slim says, "What do you think, Fred?" Fred says, "Well, if you ask me, that's a bare-faced lie." I made that up, honest. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up in the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, I'll look at a few of the myths about horses that we grew up with when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. You know, a lot of us grew up hearing things about horses that we assumed were true, and as we've learned more about them, it turns out most of them were not true. And that's what we'll look at on the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File coming right up. Here's what a few folks have said about the Spirit of the West cruises.
We had a lot of fun. One of the best cruises I've been on with you.
I've already put my deposit down for the next year's cruise, so sure we'll see you again.
Yeah, it's a good crowd.
I've met excellent people, and I couldn't ask for a better trip. The people were just like family. People look out for each other's, and it's great. It's great experience.
And they're just dedicated to helping you enjoy your holiday. I think that's what I really like about cruising.
That's what makes it so nice, is that there are so many folks that are from the background, the way we were brought up on farms and ranches.
Our 2019 cruise will be something we've wanted to do for a long time. August 29th, we'll fly to Dublin, Ireland. We'll visit an Irish thoroughbred breeding farm, be hosted by the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation. Then we'll sail to some historic and beautiful places, Cork, Belfast, and then Glasgow and Inverness, Scotland. We might even get pictures of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. And we'll have stops in Paris and London. Get all the information at 1-800-530-0131. And check out our Spirit of the West cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com and our cruise Facebook page.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Suit up for summer at Urban Tack and Western Wear. No, I'm not talking boots for the beach, although that would be interesting. I'm talking real summer stuff like sunglasses, sandals, and flip-flops, toys for the kids for those long summer road trips. You'll be surprised what you'll find at Urban's. Jewelry, purses, dishes, collectibles. Hey, all I can say is it's a whole lot of fun. Shopping Urban Tack and Western Wear off exit 305, Highway 2 by Crossfield, open 7 days a week. As Billy and I rode out to check the cows that had been hauled up a day earlier, we were reflecting on many of the myths about horses that we all grew up hearing. In the past, we saw a lot of horses turned out wearing halters because that's the only way the owners could catch them. Now, the myth is that they associate being caught with being put to work and they want to avoid it. Another one is if you chase your horse away from you, you'll make him harder to catch. Well, the day before we went out to check cows, I went out to catch an older mare that we haven't had for too long. I caught her okay without using grain or anything, but it probably took me 10 minutes of communicating my intention with her before she agreed to let me walk up and slip the halter on. Then I rode her for 4 hours, climbing the hills, checking fences. So will that make her harder to catch the next time? Well, the very next day I walked out to the pasture with the halter in my hand. When she saw me, she came right up and put her head in the halter because she wanted to go again. Now, I think if we can understand how horses read our intention, we can really improve our connection. We have a couple of fairly big paddocks with a round bale feeder in each one. Now, to control how much they eat, I just let them in on the bale for a few hours a day, and when it's time for them to leave the bale, I don't go out and catch them individually with a halter and lead them out. I just walk out with a horseman's stick and string, and through my body language I tell them to leave the bale and go out the gate. And after only a few days of doing this, they know the drill, and all I do is cluck to them and they'll willingly leave. Now, does that make them harder to catch? I don't think so. By asking them to leave, it seems to set up a desire to come back to my space when I give them permission. And it's really neat to see them watching, asking if they can come to me when I say, "You bet, come on in." And then willingly and respectfully they'll come up. Now, this stuff takes a little time and patience to set up, but when you can really see into what's happening, boy, it can be a lot of fun and really rewarding. And for Irvin Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Something else our horses appreciate is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. You can find out all about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. I'll swap a couple of real-life adventures about how things can go wrong in a day's ranch work with Tim O'Byrne after a song from Tom Cole, a guy whose voice was just made to sing the music of the West, and this is a good fit for Father's Day, too. Tom wrote this one about his dad.
He was born in Alberta on that cattle ranch. He was raised, grew to be a working cowboy, somehow survived Depression days, went to war one April morning, spent some years in foreign lands, met a girl, then raised 5 children, paved the way with 2 working hands. There comes a time when all men are judged, and they have to face the sun. He won't say he did anything special, just did some things that needed done. Just did some things that needed done. Did his best to be a neighbor, to be someone you could call friend. He raised good horses and good grandkids, and his faith would never bend. There comes a time when all men are judged, and they have to face the sun. He won't say he did anything special, just did some things that needed done. There comes a time when all men are judged, and they have to meet the sun. He won't say he did anything special, just did some things that needed done. Just did some things that needed done.
A while back, we were talking about bronc rides and runaways when Tim O'Byrne remembered this episode.
One of the guys at Gang Ranch one time, and I can't remember if I was in camp. I don't think I was there at the time, but they were up at Sawmill. I think we were someplace else that this happened to. But he was jingling horses at Sawmill, and I guess he was riding bareback with a snaffle bit for some reason. And this pony that he was riding just decided he'd had enough, and he was heading back to Gang Ranch. And he jumped 3 cattle guards. He ran all the way from Sawmill, flat out, and ran all the way back to headquarters. So.
And he stayed on him bareback?
I guess what I hear anyway.
Now there's a ride. The hardest I ever came off one time was on my gentle old gelding. He was about 17 years old by now, and I used to use him to jingle in horses once in a while, and same thing, I'd just catch him with a halter and swing on him bareback and chase the horses in. And I was doing that one time, and he stumbled and almost did a nose plant. And of course, when you're riding bareback, you don't have much to grab. And I did a nose plant just flat off his back, wham! Drove my nose right into the ground and knocked the wind clean out of me. He didn't do anything except stumble and miss a couple of steps.
Yeah, no, you don't want to jingle on a bareback horse, that's for sure.
No, that's for sure. But sometimes, young aspiring cowboys might be real good hands with cattle and pretty good with a rope, but this idea of riding green horses that are going to buck is something that probably intimidates some of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I know for me, I never, I was never really good with them or anything. Like, I never took them to the next level. I just kind of rode them and did the best I could. But I always found that it was a lot better for me to have a bunch of guys around me, and that kind of pumped you up a little bit more, as opposed to just having to do it on your own. Like, we had to ride a lot of colts, in the afternoons and evenings, when nobody was around, and sometimes I get pretty slack about that. But usually when there was a crowd of guys around, like when I was young and single, then it was like, well, hey, if you get bucked off, everybody laughs and like that. But
nothing does knock your courage up a notch or two, like a bunch of your peers standing around watching. I think we'll all do things or attempt things we probably wouldn't do if it was just us and that horse at home in the round pen kind of. But if we got an audience, I guess that cowboy pride spurs us on somehow.
Well, there's a classic song of the West, and one I don't think we've ever played before, and then the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. This week's classic song of the West and the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight coming right up after this one from a guy who's been a fixture at the Stony Plain Cowboy Gathering for many years, Jackson McKenzie.
My daddy calls him Cowboy, although his name is Glenn. He has been a cowboy since no one remembers when. He busted broncs, he rode the range, the fences he would mend. He'll do it till his life comes to an end. He talks of summer roundups, eating beans and prairie dust, the roping and the branding and the broncs that he would bust. He's been through blizzards, pouring rain, and blazing sun as well. He's been near cold as ice and hot as hell. Now cowboys wear their fancy hats and boots without a scratch. The Broncos that they drive don't have a saddle on their backs. They drink and fight into the night just like they did before. But cowboys just ain't cowboys anymore. He's had a quarrel now and then with wolves and neighbors too, but he's still not a redneck after all that he's been through. He's always treated grizzly bears and ladies with respect. He's lived a decent life without regret. Now cowboys wear their fancy hats and boots without a scratch. The Broncos that they drive don't have a saddle
fight into the night, just like they did before. But cowboys just ain't cowboys anymore. Now cowboys wear their fancy hats and boots without a scratch. The Broncos that they drive don't have a saddle on their backs. They drink and fight into the night, just like they did before. But cowboys just ain't cowboys anymore. No, cowboys just ain't cowboys anymore.
Bob Nolan's mighty pen left a legacy of Western songs that resonate through the West even here in the 21st century. This typically rollicking early Bob Nolan song was apparently written for the Columbia film Texas Stampede. I think it starred Charles Starrett. In his early years, Bob Nolan moved around the country at will and never quite got over the thrill of leaving. It was never commercially recorded by the Sons of the Pioneers, but it was done for the radio transcriptions, Orthoacoustic Symphonies of the Sage, and for the old Lucky You radio program. But this is the up-to-date version of this song for our classic Song of the West from Wiley in the Wild West.
Anytime I get the urge to travel, anywhere the tumbleweeds blow, happy when the hooves are scratching gravel, I grab my saddle horn and blow. You may think a certain place has got me, and from there I never will roam. But you son of a gun, I'll bet you 100 to 1, I grab my saddle horn and blow. I've traveled all around this country, I guess I've been most everywhere. I've been from coast to coast, way down south, I know the tang of frosty air. I like the feel of saddle leather, I love the way the pony sways. As I ride along, I'll sing my song and be happy the rest of my days. Let's blow. Country, I guess I've been most everywhere. I've been from coast to coast, way down south, I know the tang of frosty air. I like the feel of saddle leather, I love the way the pony sways. As I ride along, I'll sing my song and be happy the rest of my days. Anytime I get the urge to travel, anywhere the tumbleweeds blow, happy when the hooves are scratching gravel, I grab my saddle horn and blow. You might think a certain place has got me, and from there I never will roam. But you son of a gun, I'll bet you 100 to 1, I'll grab my saddle horn and blow. Son of a gun, I'll bet you 100 to 1, I'll grab my saddle horn and blow.
I kind of like some of that stuff. The clarinets and the muted trumpet there. Wiley Gustafson, Wiley in the Wild West. And Wiley catches us from the family ranch on the big sound of KZIN out of Shelby. And now, in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, here's award-winning poet Dennis Flynn.
Sitting on the porch one evening with my grandson to train, I felt inclined to tell him about the time it didn't rain. To him, it's old man's prattle back in the days when I punched cattle. But he helps me pass the time as we share the past in rhyme. Boy, you ever chawed a pebble just to keep that old thirst back when you really had to gig him just to make your horse untrack? When that summer sun beat on you till you thought you'd sweat a lake, and them doubts, they crept up on you like a belly-crawling snake. Why, we wondered if it is feasible to keep the ranch together and We couldn't help but ask ourselves, is it me or just the weather? Do we do it for our children or our grandkids' legacy? That just built up added pressure. God, don't let it end with me. We thank God for the spring rains, and thanks to Him we made some hay. But we fed it up real quickly with no rain for 90 days. Cattle all was sold and gaunted, and we sold off a few, but that gave us more longevity from our banker's point of view. That drought, it got our neighbors, families that we'd known for years. When good people failed around us, it just added to our fears. I took in some outside horses and went to shoeing some for folks in town. Ma cut back all non-essentials, and the kids I helped around. Boy, when age waits down upon us, the time slipped away like mornings do. The drought's a distant memory now. Pulling together was his family's glue. I hope my grandson will cowboy on up and carry the 7X torch, and remember the drought and the history we shared on Granddaddy's porch. Sometime during my rambling drought story, the boy fell asleep here on my knee. But I feel good knowing that he'll hear it again. See, my grandson's only 3.
Well, thanks again for making the ride this week, and I sure hope you'll be back here next week at the same time. And as always, thanks to our great support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. And if you need any kind of tractor parts, any make, any year, just see Mark's page, bctractorparts.com. And of course, you can subscribe to Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine at cowboycountrymagazine.com. And by the way, you can now download a podcast of this program every week and take it with you. See how to do that at our website, hugh-mclennan.com. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.